This is the Doomsday Clock, a clock that doesn't tell time, doesn't have a minute or hour hand, and never resets every 12 hours. Instead, this clock has only one purpose: to show how close humanity is to the brink of destruction. And when I say destruction, I'm not just talking about a pandemic or a tough year. I'm talking about the complete annihilation of humanity, the end of our entire world. Now, you might be wondering, how do we even measure something as terrifying as the end of the world? What makes this clock so important? And who decides how close we really are to the end of the world? You'll soon see just how connected this clock is to real events and real dangers we face today. But before that, we have to first understand the history behind the Doomsday Clock. Who created it and why? And what incidents in the past led scientists to create this Doomsday Clock? Let's find out. In 1942, during World War II, scientists, including Albert Einstein, Leo Szilard, and J. Robert Oppenheimer, they all working on a secret U.S. government project called the Manhattan Project, which aim of the Manhattan Project was to become the first country who developed the first nuclear weapons in the world. After creating nuclear weapons, scientists deeply worried about the new power humanity had unleashed because this newly discovered weapon had the potential to do far more destruction than anything the world had ever seen. And this fear came true. On August 9th, 1945, the U.S. dropped an atomic bomb on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, a city with a population of around 246,000 were killed instantly, while thousands more died later from injuries and radiation exposure. After witnessing the destruction, these scientists feared that if countries kept making nuclear weapons, it could lead to the destruction of humanity. The thought of a nuclear war that could end civilization was terrifying. Scientists were deeply concerned about the long-term consequences of nuclear warfare and the global risks associated with advanced technology. To tackle this issue in 1945, scientists involved in the Manhattan Project, the same scientists who created the first nuclear weapons during World War II, founded the Bulletin of Atomic Scientists, BAS. Their main purpose was to warn the public and policymakers about the dangers of nuclear weapons and to advocate responsible science and global security. 2 years later, in 1947, artist Martel Langsdorff, an American artist, was part of the Manhattan Project, designed a simple yet haunting image of a clock, which later became the symbol for the Bulletin of Atomic Scientists, also called a countdown to humanity's end. Unlike an ordinary clock, the Doomsday Clock has no numbers, no ticking seconds, and no 12-hour cycle. And even its hand doesn't move in every second, as a normal clock does. But why? What are the reasons behind this? Because the minute hand of the Doomsday Clock does not move automatically like a typical clock. It's not bound to a set rhythm or time cycle. As compared to the normal clock, it is not intended to measure time in the traditional sense. Instead, the minute hand is adjusted manually by the Bulletin of the Atomic Scientists Science and Security Board. This board, composed of scientists, policymakers, and security experts, decides how close the world is to a global catastrophe based on global threats. In simple terms, if global issues like nuclear war, climate change, and emerging dangers like artificial intelligence and biological risks increase, the hand of the Doomsday Clock moves closer to midnight. It means the world is in greater danger and getting closer to destroying our world. And if the clock hand moves further from midnight, it signals progress in reducing global risks. Since its creation in 1947, the Doomsday Clock has been adjusted over 25 times. Let's look at some key moments when the clock's minute hand moved closer to midnight. First, in 1947, the clock was set to 7 minutes to midnight, signaling the fear of nuclear war after World War II and the start of the nuclear arms race. Second, in 1953, the clock moved to just 2 minutes to midnight after the US and Soviet Union tested hydrogen bombs, escalating global tensions. Third, in 1991, after the Cold War ended and nuclear disarmament agreements were made, the clock moved to 17 minutes to midnight, the farthest it has ever been, giving hope for a safer world. Fourth, in 2020, the clock was set to 100 seconds to midnight due to the increasing risks of nuclear tensions, climate change, and other global threats. Finally, in 2023 and 2024, the clock was adjusted to 90 seconds to midnight, the closest it has ever been, due to the war in Ukraine, rising nuclear threats, and global instability. The truth is, we're closer than ever to a global catastrophe. The Doomsday Clock's hands are now dangerously close to midnight, signaling that humanity is in jeopardy. But why should this matter to you? Because the decisions made today will shape tomorrow. We live in a world where technology is advancing at a rapid pace, and our global actions or inactions could trigger irreversible consequences. From nuclear warfare to climate change, each of us plays a role in either pushing the clock forward or pulling it back. The clock doesn't tick on its own. It's in our hands. The power to change the future lies within our actions. Whether it's advocating for policies that reduce global threats or investing in sustainable technologies that could save us all from self-destruction. So what can we do? The Doomsday Clock isn't just a symbol, it's a warning. It reminds us that we're all connected and that our choices, no matter how small, can tip the scales. The world faces serious challenges, and it's our collective responsibility to take action before it's too late. If we want to ensure that our children and grandchildren inherit a world worth living in, we must make responsible decisions today. We can't afford to wait until the clock strikes midnight. If you're interested in the potential global risks that we're facing now, then watch the next video on Iran's missile attack on Israel and how it could spark World War III. Till then, see you in the next video.